You guys are lifesavers.
That's what you think.
In action.
The Walking Dead Dead City, exclusively on AMC and AMC+.
Whether it's our stories, the warmth of our laugh, or our family's secret sauce, we all bring something different to the table. So make some space. The power of connection is waiting right outside your comfort zone. Learn how you can help strengthen your community at belongingbeginswithus.org/teamup.
Spectrum News Plus. Local stories, connecting communities. Streaming now on the Spectrum News app and free with your Spectrum subscription.
I'm Sharon Tazwell. Here's your Spectrum News at 90. Multiple people are dead and hurt after a tour bus rolled over while returning to New York City from Niagara Falls. The bus was carrying more than 50 people, including children. However, we learned no children were killed. Police say the bus lost control, went into the median, overcorrected, and ended up in the ditch. Several ambulances and medical helicopters responded.
For mechanical failure as well as operator impairment have been ruled out at this time. The operator has been cooperative, and with the investigation still underway, no charges have been filed at this point.
The FBI searches the home and office of former National Security Supervisor John Bolton Friday. It's part of a renewed investigation of whether or not Bolton mishandled classified information. Bolton was fired by President Donald Trump in 2019, after which Bolton wrote a scathing review of the first Trump term in 2020, the room where it happened. Bolton was not detained and has not been charged with any crimes. Wall Street closed high Friday following Fed Chair Jerome Powell signaling the Federal Reserve may soon lower key interest rates. Powell gave no hint on the timing of the move and suggested the central bank will proceed cautiously as it evaluates the impact of President Trump's tariffs and other policies on the economy. That's your Spectrum News at 90.
Hey everybody, I'm meteorologist Nate Harrington. As we look at the big picture heading into the weekend, two cold fronts control the weather across the lower 48 with rain chances and cooler weather on the way. And by the way, we say goodbye to Hurricane Aaron. Cooler air will be diving in for the weekend ahead. Sweltering heat still a problem out west. And while Aaron is gone, the tropics remain active. We'll talk all about it in your forecast coming up in 10 minutes.
The Big Deal. I'm Errol Lewis, national political anchor at Spectrum News. This program focuses on the future of our country and its people. This week, the big deal is the Trump administration's ongoing federal takeover of the Washington, D.C. police force as part of what the White House is calling an anti-crime push, saying that the city has been overrun by violent crime. But the mayor of Washington, D.C., Muriel Bowser, backed by FBI data, is disputing the president's claims, pointing out that crime in the district, like in many other cities around the country, had actually fallen to record low levels before the National Guard arrived. President Trump met with hundreds of National Guard troops on patrol, and on Friday, the Pentagon confirmed that Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has ordered the National Guard to begin carrying firearms. It remains unclear how long the troops will be deployed, although the president has hinted that the federal takeover of D.C. could be extended to other cities. Here's what the president had to say on Friday.
I'm tired of listening to these people say how safe it was before we got here. It was unsafe. It was horrible. And Mayor Bowser better get her act straight or she won't be mayor very long, because we'll take it over with the federal government, run it like it's supposed to be run. And after we do this, we'll go to another location and we'll make it safe also. We're going to make our country very safe. We're going to make our cities very, very safe. Chicago's a mess. You have an incompetent mayor, grossly incompetent. And we'll straighten that one out probably next. That'll be our next one after this.
Joining me now with more are two top political analysts. Tim Boyum is a political anchor for Spectrum News based in Raleigh, North Carolina. And political reporter Cassie Semien is joining us from Washington, D.C. And Cassie, our D.C. Bureau for Spectrum is just a short walk from Union Station. I've seen soldiers in camouflage, military vehicles over there. What has been the look and feel of the city for you as you try and move around?
Yeah, there definitely is a visible presence of the National Guard over the last several days. I had two members of the Guard on my metro train when I was headed into work this morning, and you come out of the metro station and there are a bunch standing there, kind of not to greet you, but you know, they're standing around watching out for crime, but it's not necessarily a high crime area. I will say a short anecdote for you, Errol, is the fact there was a visit to Union Station by J.D. Vance to thank the troops earlier this week, and a fellow news producer who was covering the event was no further away than 4 to 6 feet at any given time from a federal agent and still had their wallet stolen while they were covering the vice president's visit. So, I mean, to say it's cracking down on crime, it depends on who you ask, but there definitely is a visible presence of these troops on the streets here in D.C.
Well, I mean, isn't the real crime happening out in the neighborhoods and not around the mall or the Capitol complex?
I mean, that's exactly the criticism that we're hearing from people who actually live in D.C., that there's a big presence of these troops on the mall, around the Capitol, at Union Station, and those aren't necessarily the high traffic crime areas. I went out to dinner on Saturday in Georgetown and saw a number of federal law enforcement officers walking up and down the waterfront, not necessarily an area you associate with high crime. So a lot of criticism has been that, yes, maybe there is a crackdown on crime in D.C. That's what this administration is trying to do. They're reporting out these numbers each night that guns are coming off the street, but at the same time, a lot of people are just seeing these troops out and about in non-high traffic crime areas.
And then, Tim, nevertheless, at least 6 states that have Republican governors are sending a combined 1,000 additional National Guards officers to boost the military presence in the Capitol. The irony, of course, I think it was CNN that reported that at least 10 cities in those states have higher crime rates than Washington itself. If it's not really about public safety, what is this all about?
Yeah, you know, interesting. I was just talking to a pollster this week, and I asked him whether, you know, feelings matter more than facts in the court of public opinion. And he said unequivocally, yes, that is the case. And look, you see images of people getting beat up or other crimes that are caught on camera that go viral on social media. Those are very powerful images compared to a stat or a report about crime is down. And so feelings really do matter in this quite a bit. And we're seeing it all across the country. Republicans have been pushing this for years, since COVID times. Here in North Carolina, there were riots back in 2020 in Raleigh, and people blame the governor. Now he's running for Senate. There's no question they're going to bring that back up. I think the question here is, you know, I know someone in D.C., and they said it's a little unnerving seeing the National Guard out in the middle of the streets. If this tries to get pushed out into other communities, then how do people feel like, you know, state police kind of roaming through their cities? How do they feel about that? That's going to be a big question moving forward, I think.
Okay, let me switch topics, Cassie. Today, the president's former national security advisor, John Bolton, who served in President Trump's first term, had his Maryland home and office searched by federal agents. In a book and in speeches, Bolton has been outspoken against Trump's foreign policies. And it comes to mind, of course, another outspoken critic, New York State Attorney General Letitia James, is also being investigated by the Justice Department. The special prosecutor went by her house. Is all of this political retribution?
Yeah, that was a question that was posed to both the president and the vice president today. The president denied any knowledge of the raid before it happened. He said he hadn't spoken to the attorney general or the director of the FBI beforehand, that he was trying to stay out of it, that he didn't want to be involved. Vice President J.D. Vance telling NBC News in an exclusive interview that we've seen some excerpts from already is the fact that he says that they are going to pursue this on the facts, and specifically to make sure that John Bolton did not break the law and mishandle classified documents. He says politics has nothing to do with it, but it is quite interesting, Errol, the vice president, one, even commenting on it, and two, using the term "we are going to pursue this," meaning he had some sort of knowledge that some raid or search was about to happen, because this happened this morning and he sat down for the interview in a short while after that raid took place. So kind of an interesting argument that the administration had nothing to do with it or no knowledge about it, but the vice president spoke so freely.
Okay, and then one more topic, Tim. A judge ruled this week that the so-called alligator Alcatraz, that immigration detention center that was built in the middle of the Florida Everglades, has to be closed. But it was not a ruling about the legality of actually detaining or deporting people, right? I mean, what was the basis of this order?
Yeah, there are concerns about conditions there for the folks that are being held there, too, and that's another lawsuit. But this one in particular was just a good old-fashioned environmental case. As you mentioned, Everglades, you know, an environmentally precarious area in a lot of ways. There's concerns about endangered species there, and this was a suit brought on by environmental groups and also a Native American tribe concerned about that. So environmentalists are praising this as a huge win for that, and that was really what the main case was behind this specifically. As I mentioned, there's other lawsuits around this, and by the way, there's confusion in some ways too about how this is being operated between the state and federal government, who's in charge, and what rules and regulations are in place because of that. And the state has already said that this is going to be appealed. So this is, in many ways, the beginning, not the end of that place.
Okay. Thanks very much, Tim. And thank you, Cassie. We're going to take a short break now. And when we come back, we'll take a closer look at some changes coming to the federal student loan system under President Trump's recently passed law. Stay with The Big Deal.
At Spectrum Noticias, we recognize that our community is vibrant and diverse.
Spectrum Noticias delivers balanced coverage of the stories that matter in our communities and across the country.
Our journalists are based in the neighborhoods we cover, ensuring you get in-depth reporting on what's happening in the places we call home.
So join us at Spectrum Noticias. We're always on, always there for you.
Now available on your TV. Check your local listings. Also available on the Spectrum News app.
Bring it to the party. Bring it to the top. Bring it to the party. Never gonna stop.
Enjoy. Unwind. Connect. With Spectrum TV On Demand. From the latest hit movies you've been waiting to watch to your favorite comfort shows and more, all available instantly for you to stream. Create the all-around entertainment experience you've always wanted with Spectrum TV On Demand. Browse over 80,000 on-demand titles today.
Being a cowboy, well, I don't know anything different. I had a very successful career. Life was fast. I was preparing physically. I wasn't doing anything mentally. And then I got hurt. I dug into mental health. I wanted to be better as a person. I start my day with a workout. I live life 8 seconds at a time. Find a place to stop and just breathe. Love your mind.
I'm Sandra, this is Jorge, and we were adopted in 2019. I remember when they first came to us, Michael was already a teenager. The whole cliche of they're so lucky to have you guys, and it's the other way around. They have changed our family for the better. They chose to love us. They didn't have to. They chose us. Family.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org.
Watching The Big Deal, where we are continuing to analyze President Trump's tax and spending plan and what it will mean for families across the country. Today, we're taking a look at the important changes to the federal student loan system that might affect you. Nearly 43 million people in the United States have federal student loan debt. That's about 1 in 6 Americans, with a total debt exceeding $1.6 trillion. Under President Trump's spending plan, borrowers can expect major changes to the federal student loan system, including fewer repayment options, the phasing out of the Biden-era SAVE plan, and tighter borrowing limits. At the start of this month, borrowers enrolled in the SAVE program, which offered lower monthly payments, began to see interest accrue on their student loans. Spectrum News reporter Sasha Strong spoke to one student at the University of North Carolina in this report.
I'm currently the research assistant for the Jewish Oral History Archives project.
UNC Greensboro graduate student Catherine Mazer says she took out about $19,000 in subsidized student loans for her undergraduate degrees from UNC Asheville.
To my knowledge, it is a federal loan, so I know the interest is extremely high, and thankfully, again, I'm a grad student, so kind of get a furlough for that.
According to the Department of Education, more than 1 million North Carolinians have student loans and owe an average of nearly $39,000. More than 269,000 people in our state originally enrolled in the SAVE plan.
I also have a multitude of friends, both in undergrad and grad school, that are going to be affected by the changes. So it's just going to be a lot of a hassle for a lot of people.
The federal student aid website says the interest rates on subsidized student loans is 6.39%, making interest about $1,200 a year after graduation.
If you've been ignoring your student loans, you need to get on it, because the last thing you need to do is default or be delinquent.
Financial aid director at UNCG, Don Harrod, says right now the best option is to get in touch with your loan servicer and begin a new repayment plan.
Don't avoid it, don't delay, get it done as soon as you can, because it will have dire impacts on you later.
Joining me now with more on this is Michael Pierce. He is the executive director and co-founder of the Student Borrower Protection Center, a nonprofit organization that focuses on protecting student loan borrowers. Mr. Pierce, thanks for joining me. Now, the biggest change that I can see here is the phasing out of former President Biden's savings on a valuable education plan, the SAVE plan. Explain to us why it was a lifeline for so many borrowers and what it's going to mean when the program ends in July 2028.
Student debt poses costs on families. They have to pay a bill every month. They get interest that stacks and stacks and stacks. And the Biden era plan let people pay what they could afford. And for middle-class borrowers, that payment could be as low as $0 per month. That's all going away. And we estimate that a typical family of four is going to pay more than $5,000 a year in extra costs on their student loans because of this one change.
Wow. There's another big change that's going to affect students going forward. I know that there are new lower borrowing limits included in the spending plan. Experts say that it's going to make it harder for lower income students to attend graduate school. And I was looking at the numbers. I mean, these lifetime limits, $100,000 for most graduate students, $200,000 for professional schools like, medical school or law school. Are these programs more expensive than that, or are those limits going to work for future students?
This is a hope and a prayer that somehow this is going to lower the cost of college, because right now professional students, highly trained healthcare workers, doctors, lawyers are going deeply into debt to pay for those programs because they are so expensive. There is no plan to make sure that people that don't have money from their parents can still go to college in this environment.
Well, let's talk about some repayment options. I know that new borrowers are only going to have 2 plans to choose from instead of the current 7. What are the highlights that future borrowers are going to need to know about?
The most important thing for people that have debt today is that some of those other options will stick around for a little while. But if you're going to school right now, you're a new borrower, you'll have 2 plans to pick from. One makes you make a level monthly payment based on how much you borrowed. And the other is based on your income, but it's not as good of a deal as what used to exist. So if you lose your job or you make very low income, you'll still have to make a monthly payment. Interest will still continue to accrue, and you will end up having to pay thousands of dollars more per year than somebody who borrowed to go to school a decade ago.
I see a sign on the wall behind you about student debt cancellation. Is that has that ship sailed? Is that still a possibility for some of my viewers?
So federal law gives you a right to get your debt canceled. You have the right to get your debt canceled if you work in public service. You have the right to get your debt canceled if you have very low income over a very long period of time. If you're disabled and you can't work, you have these rights to get your debt canceled. They didn't get changed in the big, beautiful bill. Those rights to debt relief exist. 5 million people have had their debts canceled under these older programs just in the past 4 years. And we expect that will continue. And if it doesn't, we're going to take the Trump administration to court.
And what's the best place for people to find out more about whether or not they're eligible for cancellation?
So we have a website that we run with a number of partners called cancelmystudentdebt.org. You can learn about your rights under current law. There's also a ton of good information on the federal government's website, even now, at studentaid.gov.
And we don't want to discourage people. Does student debt still make sense for a lot of people who are trying to get higher education?
Absolutely. Student debt is the way that we pay for higher education in America, and college should be free and there should be no student debt. But until that happens, it's better to go to college than not go to college. You just need to be careful where you go, watch how much you borrow, and make sure that the program you're pursuing is valuable.
Okay, very sound advice. Thank you very much, Mike Pierce.
Thank you so much for having me.
Coming up next, political lines are being redrawn all over the nation, and it could determine the balance of power in Congress. We'll explain when the big deal returns. Stay with us.
The stories that touch our border affect us all. That's why at Spectrum News Plus, we don't just cover these communities. Our dedicated reporting team also calls them home. That perspective allows us to take an in-depth look, going beyond the politics, to see the impact on people's lives and what it means for you and your community. Balanced border coverage that tells the full story here on Spectrum News Plus. Available on all your favorite devices, exclusively on Spectrum.
Spectrum with Paramount Plus is the entertainment destination.
You're gonna love this.
Getting oil out of the ground is the most dangerous job in the world.
It's so good to see you.
Come on!
Right now, I am in first gear. Would you like to see me shift to 6?
Stream a mountain of the entertainment you love on Paramount Plus. Included in Spectrum TV Select plans at no extra cost.
What are you doing in there?
What's that?
I wouldn't do that. What are you doing? What are you looking for?
Mom was always organized, but she started forgetting to pay her bills on time.
And she'd buy the same gifts over and over.
Telling the girls about my Alzheimer's diagnosis was really hard.
At first we had our cries, but then we were like, okay, let's make a plan.
Early detection gave us time to adapt together.
It's so important for you to think about what you can do and making the most of what you have.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
Back with the big deal. This week, the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, signed a redistricting plan for that state. California residents will get to vote in November on a newly drawn U.S. House map that favors Democrats. It was all in reaction to Texas lawmakers who advanced a new electoral map on Wednesday, redrawing congressional districts to give Republicans a boost in the midterm elections and help that party try to maintain control of Congress. Now, other states, including New York and California, are promising retaliation, and they're exploring their own path forward for redistricting. Joining me now to walk us through this week's developments is James Barragon, a political anchor for Spectrum News 1 in Austin, Texas. James, thanks for joining me. And we've got really a political arms race at this point, right? Officials from both parties and in a dozen other states are thinking about partisan redistricting. Are we on the path to seeing a new redistricting like every 2 years?
I think that's a huge concern for rights groups and voting rights groups, that we could see this every 2 years. This is really unprecedented. And of course, there has been mid-decade redistricting in the past, including here in Texas in 2003, but those are not usual events. I mean, those are, in 2003, it was a big deal when that happened. And so there is this concern that we are moving towards redistricting just for political purposes. Now, it remains to be seen whether this is going to be happening every 2 years. We know it's an emergency for President Trump. He's talked about needing to shore up his congressional majority to keep that really razor-thin majority. But it does look, as you called it, like a redistricting arms race that could spread across the country.
The Texas maps are not official yet, is my understanding, but what's next in the process? And are Democrats in your state planning any legal or political response?
Well, even on Friday, when the maps were being considered in the Senate, a state senator was looking to filibuster the plans. And so it could extend even a couple of hours or maybe potentially a day. But we know that Republicans in the state here are set on passing these maps, even if it takes another special session to do it. So these maps will pass, but there certainly will be legal challenges from Democrats, from minority rights groups. We know that LULAC and the NAACP are certainly not happy about the redrawing, which affects minority opportunity districts. And so there certainly will be challenges. There's already a legal challenge to the map passed in 2021, and you can expect those challenges to come very, very quickly after these maps are passed.
Okay, now at least one Texas Democrat, Representative Lloyd Doggett, has announced that he will not run for re-election if the court upholds these new maps, because it puts him in a district, I guess, with a Democratic colleague. What's that all about?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is exactly the kind of thing that Texas Republicans wanted to happen, or at least knew would happen, that they would redraw some of these Democrats into districts where they'd have to compete with fellow Democrats. Now, Congressman Doggett has served the Austin area for 30 years in Congress, and he's a favorite among the Democratic caucus and among Democratic voters. But he was also the first congressperson to call on President Joe Biden to leave the presidential race last year, and so there's some parallels to that, where the opponent that he would be facing is a young 36-year-old progressive named Greg Casar, and people, at least here in Austin, were seeing parallels between that move for Doggett saying that President Biden should step aside for a new generation, and to the situation that's happening to him now. Now, he did sort of a week ago say he was all in, but I think in that week there's been a lot of pressure, a lot of conversations with him from fellow Democrats saying we don't want to have a grueling battle between two progressive Democrats. And he said if these maps pass, he'll step out of the way, and wishes Congressman Greg Casar all the luck in the district.
One thing I've learned from you and our other Spectrum News colleagues in Texas in recent years is that the state seems to be becoming more, quote unquote, purple, meaning there are more and more Democrats, there are more and more, say, Latino voters who tend to vote Democratic. Is all of this redrawing of lines kind of pushing against the tide? Is the state going to change no matter what?
Well, I'm always skeptical. I don't think that demographics are destiny. And in fact, Republicans have made some gains with Hispanics in South Texas. But that's not to say that all Latinos and all Hispanics are going towards the GOP. In fact, there's more Latinos in the Dallas metro area and in the Houston metro area than there is in the entirety of South Texas. So I think that the state would remain competitive, but these maps will be drawn to have a highly favorable partisan skew towards Republicans.
Okay. Thanks very much, James. Great talking with you.
Thank you, Errol.
And thank you all for joining us for this episode of The Big Deal. We'll see you next week. Stay tuned to your local Spectrum station.
Friday nights, The Big Deal with Errol Lewis, where Spectrum News' local political journalists break down the most important issues shaping our nation.
Here's the deal. People need a place to explore national issues that have an impact on their community. To understand those issues better, we're bringing together our team of local political journalists from across the country to break down what's happening. So join us every week to catch up on the key stories making a big difference across the nation and in your local community.
Watch The Big Deal with Errol Lewis Friday nights at 9 Eastern, 8 Central on Spectrum News Plus. Available on all of your favorite devices, exclusively on Spectrum.
Are you ready
Ready for the ultimate entertainment experience? Spectrum is bringing together the streaming apps you love. Plus, live TV for sports, entertainment, and news. All in one place, across your devices. So no matter when or where you are, it's all here. Spectrum.
Weather can be beautiful, inconvenient, and at times powerful. And it affects everything we do. At Spectrum News Plus, our weather experts update you with the information and the context you need so you can better plan your day. And we do it every 10 minutes. We're the calm in the storm. Weather on the Ones on Spectrum News Plus, exclusively on Spectrum. And get your weather anytime on the Spectrum News app. Spectrum News Plus. Local stories, connecting communities. Streaming now on the Spectrum News app.